You know, I want to tell you a little story here. Something I come to learn the hard way. Not through religious political cults and New Age or grammar, but experiences in real life, real, true life experience. The great wisdom and knowledge that we learn from genuine, true life experiences when we go through life. And it doesn't matter what anyone says, you can't beat the wisdom that comes from genuine, true life experiences and what you feel and what you go through in real life. So you learn things and you go through certain footsteps in your life. You feel things. You look at the world today. You look at the way it used to be when you were a child, when you were young, and how much it's altered and changed in the time you've been here on the planet. I remember back in the early 70s, we all used to sit outside. We all knew everyone in the streets in the whole neighborhood. Smiles, greetings every day. People were happy, extremely spiritual. Love, loyalty, honor, respect, moral, imminent remorse, plenty of it. As we go into screens, TVs, radios, music, social media on screens, you see how things really change and how much they change people. You look at people today sitting on a screen all day or making videos all the time, they're not the same kind of people at all. You can't even compare people on screens with people in real life. You know, the skeleton is always behind closed doors. You never know someone unless you live with them. You could be hanging around your best friends for 5 years, but until you live with them, you'll never really know them and what skeletons are behind their closed doors. You learn that in life, that most people will only tell you what they want you to know, and they'll often accuse you what they're guilty of or what's on their mind. And the unnatural selection becomes more unnatural from generation to generation. More artificial, more evolution mutation, molded with grammar, selections with atheism tools, engineered, programmed, institutionalized, with a placebo effect that's anti-clockwise. And when you realize the faith and trust in people today in real life, most people cannot really keep their family lives and friends together in real life. There's no codependent relationships, no soulmate relationships at all anymore. People can say what they like. Grammar won't get them out of this one. It's reported worldwide on my birthday, the 27th September 1999, we're losing our sixth sense, going into sixth mass extinction, stripped from our sixth sense the sixth time. And that the last human being born on Earth was born in 1960 with a genetic memory and all the ancestral genetic tools. And when you're born in 1960 and you happen to be one of the last human beings born on Earth with DNA studies done and the biggest think tank and reports in the world, and you've been selected like this, and you're one of a kind on every study done, you know more than what anybody else does because you're one of a kind. You have the most authentic DNA in the world, the most righteous decisions in your life with genetic memory, and no matter what, you set the circumstances. You master your own mind, use 100% of your brain. The world can only use 7 to 15%. They're very limited. You're very, very limited. When you can only use 7 to 15% of your brain and you can't use 100%, you don't know how limited you are because you don't know. There's only a handful of people left in the world that can master their own mind and use 100% of their brain with their all supernatural power. Mental telepathy, ESP, remote UN telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock warning, folding space and time with deja vu, to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen, with all their supernatural power, with their natural selection and natural order, with their natural organic motor skills. You have 32 senses, 98.7% population only lives in a 5 sense world, inside their mind, 95 to 99% of the time, and they can only think instinctively 1 to 5%. Their aura in their body cells are in corruption, coercion, collusion during the daytime from every single thing they suffer from and die prematurely from, declared worldwide. Voltage reliability in their aura only works 1 to 5% all day. Some people works 95 to 99% of the time all day, clockwise. So they have a genetic process without any mental disorders or any gene defects. But it's only a handful left in the world that has no mental disorders and no gene defects and has a genetic memory with a genetic repair kit in their aura clockwise. DNA has declared the book of life, the last human being spawned on earth that can do every single thing that Christ can and more, recorded by Jeremy McGivers in the biggest study ever done with mental health research, the biggest think tank and biological evidence in DNA clear the book of life. They found the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity, to go back in the primal state, to use their natural process with a natural selection of life, a natural order. A natural order. The book Freedom by Jeremy McGivers is hailed by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of life, the most powerful merge and declaration ever made in human history. With We're Not Breathing program is won a Nobel Prize without a credential to recreate the sacred secretion with the holy breath of life that reactivates your Neuralink, the tree of life, with the sacred secretion to conduct with in your body cells, with your natural process and your natural abilities. The sacred secretion, you use a third eye that shows you the picture that tells you 1,000 words with the universal language. Your natural process, your natural abilities, with divine power to command nature. Something that's embedded in every single person in the world in their DNA, with a genetic process and a genetic memory. And they don't know how to use it because they have amnesia. When they wake up from into their celestial primordial state and take control of their vision from the outside in instead of the inside out, they have this ability to do what Christ can and more, the same way that I do. And I teach the resurrection and protect the elect with the most powerful confirmation on earth, with the most powerful results on earth, the most powerful confirmation, the most powerful clarification. I just made a very powerful video with the most powerful confirmation on earth. I am the witness with the most powerful confirmation ever developed on earth, with the most powerful divine intervention, most powerful divine love, right, with a universal power and codependent relationship. And it's critical that you understand this relationship and the power it gives you and the love it gives you that you have no comprehension of. So powerful, it's 10 times more powerful than any high and any love you've ever felt in your life. And we create heaven and earth like this, with this kind of power. Divine power to command nature that's so far beyond the mind does not understand. That's why the mind don't know. To come right out of your vessel, back in your primordial state and control your vessel from the outside in instead of the inside out, has a profound effect on your reality with the biggest wow factor. As powerful. It's so powerful, it will leave you speechless, gobsmacked, and dumbfounded, realizing how dumb you are in the mind, trapped inside the mind. And you'll come right into your shell with the most powerful clarification, most powerful confirmation, most powerful divine intervention, and the most divine power with love pouring all over the top of you, and so high, you're high as a kite, and you never felt so high before in your life. An ecstasy feeling, high as a kite. Now look, I went through my life with a lot of things, okay? Yesterday I made a powerful video, the warning from God, and a part 2, I know the devil's plan, better than anyone in the world does. I'm one of a kind. The only one of a kind. On every document and every declaration made. One of a kind. The most oppressed and suppressed by 99.9% of the Western civilization. Because they're possessed by an outside influence that controls their reality they give consent to. And they don't believe in it. Most are a species in denial. It's a known fact. Most are a species in denial, trapped in their mind and can no longer change the way they think and the way they judge. Trapped in the mentality, in a personality. With their amnesia, in a reincarnation trap that they give consent to. With a voice of mind that's ultimately designed from extinction. That sounds like Christ consciousness, but it's only a mental event. It's only a mental process, an illusion of imagination. Set up by the Rockefellers into a conscious simulated by WF. Everyone's trapped in the mind with their amnesia. The last human being born on Earth was 1960. You're not qualified to judge when you can only use 3 to 15% of your brain. You're not qualified to judge anything. If you can't use 100%, you don't know what you're doing. You can't feel the truth with magnetic fields, with your intuitive codependent EMP pulses. Those EMP pulses gives you divine power to command nature, and you don't have it. So stop lying to yourself. Stop deceiving yourself. Stop letting your mind control you with artificial intelligence and artificial mutation and a placebo effect that's anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise. Do you know what it's like to be clockwise? You haven't got a clue because you've never been there in your life. You cannot feel the truth. You keep coming to your own conclusion with reasoning, with the voice of mind that tells you to do that. Ultimately designed for human extinction and will tell you whatever you want to believe in your own mind, in your own personality, because it's only a personality. And it'll tell you whatever you want to believe in a comfort zone. But you're riddled with stress, fear, and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia in your body cells, in corruption, coercion during the daytime, and can only appear 3.5 hours a night. And that's where the truth is. DNA is the book of life. So your mind does not know what you're doing. No matter what you say, no matter what you think, it's not religious, political cults and New Age cults or grammar. It's outside the mind. Over and above and beyond. Over and above and way beyond. To feel the truth in the atmosphere with the universal language. To feel the truth with your body cells in the Most High. In the Most High. The Most High without any stress, fear, and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia. Because you're that high. It can't ever get you again. Can't deceive you again, ever again. You're free. The liberation is beyond the mind. Your mind doesn't know. Your mind's the oppressor. It's your worst enemy. It plays tricks and games in you. You become your own prison, your own ward in your mind. And you don't even know. When you release and break free through the crossover, through the rebirth, the great resurrection of humanity, trust me, you'll know. 40 days of fasting and stop the unnatural selection, get off screens. Take zinc, iron, magnesium, salicylic salt, drink lots of liquid. Listen to the book Freedom on audio. That will take you through the Holy Grail of life. That will take you through the baptism of crossing over to stick your head through the light in the tunnel. Take the red pill, you can't go back, you wake up from amnesia. And it's a massive wow factor when you go through the rabbit hole. The book Freedom held by the Holy Grail of life by 16,000 scholars will take you through this on audio. And we're not breathing every single day. Go deep in the oxygen that creates the euphoria effect of ecstasy. High as a kite. Reactivate your Neuralink, the tree of life, the Jacob's ladder. And the sacred secretion, the third eye with the sixth sense. So think instinctively and think outside the mind. As I told you in the Matrix documentary, The Matrix. Think outside the mind, you can do what I can and more. Trust me, I know. When I went through my life, I did a lot of things in my life. But I also created the most powerful truth serum in the world, the most powerful love drug. The most powerful confirmation you see in the movie Limitless. I developed drug manna, bread manna in the Bible, Christ and Moses used, and brought people back in the Pramod state to use 100% of their brain and all their natural process with God-like power, reported by the biggest think tank in the world in the Star Chamber Inquiry. My product was an every testing centre across Australia, and they had the reports with God-like power. People that had their Pramod molecules to go back to natural silicon life. And that caused the biggest male head research and DNA study ever done by Jeremy McGivers, the Book of Life. The book Freedom by Jeremy McGivers, in the biggest study ever done with DNA, the Book of Life. We can all do what Christ can and more in our own genetic process and our DNA. But the mind doesn't know how to. The mind's the problem. It oppresses you and limits you so much you have no idea. You're not following your feelings, you're following your mind and the way you institutionalize, right? Into the mind. You go to school to be mentally institutionalized, so you can't use your sixth sense and you can't see the picture that tells you that boys are going to lie to you, like you see in the movie Limits, with vortex of information with seven-fold whisper knots, and that's an outside influence that controls you really when you give a consent and go back in the innocent, go back to childhood, follow my footsteps, and you can do what I can and more with natural selection and natural order in life. It's a known fact. Then you won't have amnesia, and you won't be trapped in the reincarnation trap, and you'll break free. The most powerful liberation on earth, in a new time where time since life preserves for 1,000 years, and never suffer the consequence ever again. Imagine your wildest imagination coming true. Imagine the dreams, the most powerful dreams of freedom, and that kind of liberation coming in real life, because it is. It's available right now when you cross over, and you have an aura so powerful you had no idea. The principality and the power in the air, it's amazing shit. A weapon so powerful that no weapon will never get prosper ever again. Freedom beyond your comprehension. And it's a quantum mechanic of a relationship, a universal codependent power with EMP pulse, with 27 biofields, the Holy Spirit, divine light. And that gives you the power, the gymnastic web to master the mind. To master the mind in such a way you command nature. Divine power to command nature, where you can do what Christ can and more. And every single one of those apostles in the same bloodline. DNA, the Book of Life. The woman's seed, the blood of the Lamb. Trust me, we know. Genetically, biologically, instinctively, in the biggest research ever done, and DNA study. We have the evidence. We can do what Christ can and more. Solid, rock solid evidence. No more BS. Because the science and the biological evidence is the most powerful confirmation on earth ever developed, on the same page in the most powerful merge ever in human history. DNA, the Book of Life. The book Freedom by Jeremy McGivers, they'll cure every single thing you suffer from and go through a transformation in DNA, a genetic transformation. Where you feel so much love you never felt so much in life. 10 times more fruit, 10 times more nutritious value, 10 times more powerful aura, 10 times more powerful love. The clarification, the confirmation, the one you've been waiting for. When I went to jail, I went in a time where time stands still, I preserved for 10 years. And I made a lot of videos about this. In a time where time still, I preserved for 10 years. In 2010, I stepped out of jail. And God put me through this for a reason. He wants you to know. I saw things change. I remember everybody had more faith in me than anyone. I gave away 90% of my money recorded in 2004. $72 million to everyone around me. We brought down the highest debt time Heki, Kelly, and bonds and mismatches in 30 years, from 1996 to 2000. We caused the Royal Commission banking for 23 years, the stolen back generation of polity, the biggest mental health research and biggest DNA study ever done. Because we brought people back in the normal state to prove that everyone's under mind control. No matter how people look at it, they're under mind control. They cannot use their natural process and their natural selection. We proved it. We proved it. We're the most powerful confirmation on earth with natural selection and natural process and our natural organic molecules. We proved it. We proved it. The world's under mind control, right? They're trapped in their mind. They cannot use their natural process. And we teach them with the resurrection and the book Freedom by Jeremy McGivers and the Holy Grail of Life. We not read the program. The most critical tools on earth to bring you back into my state to do what Christ can and more with your own genetic memory and your own genetic process. Listen to me very carefully. When I walked out of jail in 2010, I was shit scared, and I want you to listen to me carefully. When we talk about feelings here, I'm in a time where time says I've preserved for 10 years. In the biggest DNA study ever done, in 2008, they found our DNA in prison. Many of us with a natural self-preservation mode for life. After 7 years in prison and a cycle of life, you start to preserve DNA. because you go back to your natural process, the same as 0 to 7. When you go to school to be mentally institutionalized with voice mind, ultimately designed for extinction. So you suffer the human condition, die prematurely. When you come to jail, you go in a natural environment like a concrete jungle where there's no systems. And you dwell on everything you do. You live in a family environment with brotherhood and fatherhood. And people take people under the wing. You learn to love your enemy as much as your neighbor. And realize that spirituality is a loving, compassionate person, and they create a character from their damage. They may be very evil and do the wrong thing, but it's only a personality because we're developed into that. So we come to jail doing our heads in with voices in our mind, like the rest of the world. And after 7 years, we go back to our natural environment, the same as 0 to 7, when our aura is perfectly and clockwise 0 to 7, and we can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7. Okay, when a stranger comes to the door when you're 24, they can manipulate you in 10 seconds flat. Your child runs the corners, you can feel the truth. They can feel the boogeyman as well when you lie to them and tell them it's a dream. But they know the outside influence on people's reality because they're innocent. So a child's perfect from 0 to 7 with a perfect biology and thinks outside the mind with 100% of his brain, and he can mastermind his computer game between 3 and 7 and respond 7 times as an adult can. But then he goes to school to be mentally institutionalized, so he can't use his natural process and his natural selection life. So he can't feel the truth. Now he comes to the same conclusion with reason, with the voice of mind tells him to do that. Ultimately designed for extinction, mentally institutionalized. And then you come to jail, and it takes 7 years of cycle of life to go back into your natural process. And then you find freedom in prison you cannot find outside. Proven with DNA studies done. The biggest malhab research. You find freedom in prison because when you go to school, you become mentally institutionalized in the skull, and you suffer the human condition throughout your life and die prematurely by the time you're 80. When you come to jail, you go back into a natural environment, same as 0 to 7, because it's like a family environment, and you're not controlled by a system and radio waves and artificial intelligence and instrumentation. So when you come to jail, you go into a natural environment, the concrete jungle, and natural selection takes place, where you live by the vineyard equally and govern life equally, same 3 meals a day, same clothes, same everything. No materialistic things. You don't own any property, no more money, no more nothing. So you live in a community where it's about brotherhood and fatherhood, and in 7 years, you take people under your wing because they're all suffering the human conditioning and dwelling on their guilt, moral, and shame. And that's what they do for 7 years. They sit down and blame themselves and try to get along, but live in moral guilt and shame for 7 years, a whole cycle of life. And then after a cycle of life, a natural selection takes place with a natural inflection point. A cycle of life of 7 years in this environment, Bulfa, they find freedom in prison they cannot find outside, and they go back to their natural process, the same as 0 to 7. And then they begin to explore that wonderful God-given gift with their natural feelings and their natural process. And then they find freedom in prison from the institutionalization of the voice mind on cognitive programs to address their feeling behavior and understand the dominant figures among family, dominant friends, okay, themselves and their victims, and their moral guilt and shame. And through this process, they all found out that they listen to the voice of mind that makes them do the things they do. And then they find freedom from that voice of mind with the natural selection life through moral guilt and shame, and understand the natural process, the same as 0 to 7. And they find the truth and freedom in prison they cannot find outside from mental institutionalization. And their genetic memory starts to activate their genetic process with their 130 nucleosome genetic memory and genetic molecules with genetic repair kit and 2 molecules of mortality. And then those secretions from the natural selection through their serotonin goes into the element with all the proteins in the whole together and activates the genetic memory and the genetic process, right, with the answers to tools with 130 nucleosome genetic repair kits, and their aura starts to go clockwise and starts to preserve DNA. 7 years of cycle of life in this environment, natural selection takes place like this, and they go back to the natural process with the natural selection life and preserve DNA. Natural preservation mode for life. They start to activate their gut feelings and body mode with the 6th sense, where they see the picture of the thousands of animals and they can feel things through a unit. That's why some mornings you can cut the ear with a knife full of tension, and it's silent because you can feel the atmosphere. Okay, you can feel when someone's staring at you what they've got in your mind because you can read people with your 6th sense, and you're fully activated with that. So we don't look at each other and stare at each other in jail, right? We behave different because we have to, and we kick along with each other with the same family environments with a relationship. with the universal language that we always had. Same as 0 to 7. Then we find more confidence, more loyalty, honor, respect, moral inspiration, encouragement than we've ever had in our life. Because this is how shit works in a natural selection in life, okay? And it comes naturally and organically with a universal connection with the atmosphere. That's so powerful you can feel with your sixth sense. And you can feel with your gut feeling survival mode, the chakra. So powerful that you're fully activated in the most positive fields with your aura. And your aura's clockwise. And then you can feel your body cells on fire, right? With the most positive fields with the atmosphere. And you can feel things 10 times more powerful. And you can see with the sacred secretion, with the third eye, that gives you the vision that tells you that was going to lie to you. So you're fully activated back in the primordial state, the same as 0 to 7. You find freedom of vision you cannot find outside. Proven with DNA studies done, the most powerful combination on earth, when they found our DNA. When I come out of jail like this, back in my primordial motorcycles, back in my natural environment, I got shit scared. And God said, son, I put you through this for a reason. You must explain with this testimony just how terrifying you really felt in that moment, Kim. You must explain. So therefore, I'm told to explain this correctly. You must listen to me carefully. You must feel what I'm saying to you. When I went to jail, we brought down the highest death time in King and Bonds and Miss Bonds in 30 years. My rescuing officer commends me and retires the police force and caused the adverse effects with many others. I had more friends that had more faith in me, and you got to listen to me. When I had TAC touch a class in Buranda, under the toughest laws that have been imposed in Queensland, toughest prostitution laws, we reset the model, and Squeezy Magazine wrote us on the front page of the paper every month for 2 years straight. We created the most positive atmosphere in the southeast corner of Queensland. That was psychiatrists and social workers. My rescuing officer interviewed them why they wrote that. And they said we had more relationship with everyone, took everyone under our wing. And we set the model that took down the highest rapes and highest murders in prostitution. We reset the model in such a way that Peter Beattie, he set the new model and set the new standards. I was convicted 17 times with no case to answer to because I did it prim and proper and perfect. Otherwise I'd be charged. I had no case to answer. They said as a mastermind loopholes, laws, manipulation to make me look bad on news on 17 current affairs shows. Really, it was my model that they used to revamp and remodel the laws with, to legalize it completely and stop all the gang killing and all the rapes involved with prostitution to the lowest level in years for 30 years. Think about that. That's why we're on Squeezy Magazines setting the standards with the most positive atmosphere in the southeast corner of Queensland. That's a hell of a statement. The atmosphere. So I know a lot about relationships and setting the atmosphere that changed the circumstances with such powerful declarations. We take down the highest death time King alien bonds and misbonds in 30 years, from 1996 to 2000. Do you know what it takes to do that across the whole nation? Take down the highest death tolls from heroin, cocaine, killing and violence, domestic violence, gang killing, and kids getting taken off their parents, going home to get raped and bashed and become prison prostitutes later. They've been paying out for 23 years in the Royal Commission for that kind of behaviour and still paying out to this day. So kids do not get taken off their parents and go into homes to get raped and bashed and becomes prisoners and prostitutes later to the lowest statistics in 30 years. Why don't I get credit for that? Why does everybody else steal credit from me? Can you see how filthy low life the world really is? Because it is. It's disgusting. Animals. When I come from the underground world as an outlaw and I set the most positive atmosphere with the most positive relationships and put together the most powerful networks in Australia and stop gang killing and violence to the lowest in 30 years, I made everybody work together and stop violence and gang violence and deaths, including mental disorders and DDPs, including kids getting taken off their parents, to the lowest in 30 years. You know, when you have that kind of relationship and that kind of godfather figure, that everybody has more faith in you than anybody else, and you're not carrying a gun or gangsters, you're doing it single-handedly. And you're seeing this, number one, right, in the gatekeeper port for that reason, that you put everyone together and you stopped the gang killing and violence and the drug deaths and domestic violence to the lowest. You do. You might understand why the cops retired the police force and why my officer commends me and stands in my second mention and said there's no evidence against me. You might understand why in 2004 they declared that I was the only one telling the truth and gave away $72 million, over 90% of my money. And everyone was lying. Everybody. My family and friends are looked after and looked after everybody around me. When I went to jail, they left me alone. They left me. Imagine going to jail and they all leave you. The ones you looked after the most, with more than $72 million you gave away, and they all lie about you. Imagine that. You're sitting in an environment where you're the one that carried everybody with more love, more loyalty, more respect than anybody else they've ever seen or known. Gave them more faith, carried them more, with the most powerful relationships and the most powerful love they've ever had in their life, and I was that giving, I made sure no one suffered around me. Then they leave me, and I don't see them anymore, only my mum. Then we go into mental health research with the human conditioning that people strip from their sixth sense and their natural abilities. Then you go through this. Then you come out of jail in 2010 and it scared the living shit out of me. As I could feel it was going 7 times faster, flat out into nowhere, but the sixth mass extinction stripped from the sixth sense for the sixth time. And I could feel the atmosphere collapsing worldwide. I could feel people's aura gone, polarized in screens, artificial human beings, actors, grammar, self-centered behavior, cognitive behavior, argumentative behavior, selfish behavior, polarized in screens, fake friends, fake tools, fake love, synthetic friends, artificial to the shithouse. And it scared me. The atmosphere was collapsed everywhere. Their auras collapsed. There was no more love in these species. No more loyalty, honor, respect, moral or remorse in any of these people. My friends conquered, debate and divide and only had faith in 1 or 2 people, right? Because they were that judgmental and that competitive. Sitting on screens, all of them, everywhere. I went to a birthday party with 18 people, my first birthday party for 10 years, and all of a sudden I'm looking at my mum, the only one not using an iPhone, the only one that stayed with me in jail for 10 years was my mum. My only person that stayed with me was mum, and a couple of Christians, and least expected, I didn't even know, they stayed with me as well. The rest left me, all of them. Now I'm going through the biggest mental health research with the human conditioning, and I'm seeing how much they suffer from when they come out. I couldn't believe it. They're trapped so deep into their personality and into mentality without a care factor, they have no idea what they're doing. And it scared the living shit out of me when I come out of jail. And God said, do not forget this testimony, Kim. Do not forget what you felt and what you really experienced that day. You must tell the world. Because I put you through this with real feelings. And you felt the truth, son. You felt the truth. They cannot feel the truth, son. They cannot feel what's going on. You felt the atmosphere collapsing. You felt everyone going 7 times faster in a 6 mass extinction, stripping the sixth sense for the 6th time. And you could feel the truth, son. And you felt it. And you were shit scared when you came out of jail, son. You were shit scared. And fuck, I was scared. Fuck, I was scared, man. I was so scared you have no fucking idea. I met my family, right? And they like pushed me away, man. These were all the ones that stole my money, that I helped so much throughout my life, and they treated me like shit. My kids said, you're nothing, Dad. You're just a criminal. Who are you? You're nobody. I'm thinking, what? What the fuck are my kids talking to me like that for? I've never hurt my kids. I've never treated them like shit. They got spoiled fucking rotten, if anything. But I made sure they never followed my footsteps. I made sure they never went into drugs and never went to be a criminal, any of those tools at all. I made sure they did what I said and not what I do. And I brought them up to be perfect in society. But you know what I didn't know? I knew nothing about the Bible and never went to church. Never knew anything about spirituality. I just knew how to manage myself. I just knew things other people didn't know. How to think instinctively and how to think outside the mind with my natural process. But in 2012, I was clinically dead for 23 minutes. Paralyzed my neck down, told I'd never walk again, got them all down. And then when the biggest mental health research and DNA study were done, and then they told me I'm primordial being number one in every study done for 34 years in DNA, number one worldwide with genetic memory and a genetic process. Then I had divine intervention the next day. And that's the first time I discovered who the Father really is and the Holy Spirit, divine light, when He come to me. With the most powerful confirmation and the most powerful love I ever felt in my life. And nothing in the world prepared me for this. And oh boy, no love have I ever felt like this. The most powerful divine intervention, the most powerful love I ever felt in my life. And oh boy, high as a kite, so high, I'd never been so high in my life. And wow, I didn't know. I had no idea. But I was put through this. And for a reason. With the most powerful confirmation on earth that God ever developed. That's why I made a video before. I am the witness with the most powerful confirmation ever developed on earth. You need to pay attention to me no matter who you are, where you come from, because it's not what you think. It's about the relationship. It's about a relationship. It's about a universal connection. It's about an ability, right, to find freedom you never found before in your life, that you only ever dreamed about. It's about power, love, pouring all over you in such a way, no weapon from against you can prosper. And believe me, I know, because I teach it every day. The great resurrection with the right tools. The right tools, not the wrong ones. With the most powerful results in the world. And people are learning this. And they're finding that out. I'm right, and the rest of the world's wrong. They're learning that I'm right because they're finding out. They're learning. They're also activating their chromosomes and feeling the truth and getting the most powerful confirmation with the most powerful clarification and the most powerful love they've ever felt in their life. Pouring all over them. Freedom beyond the mind. Way beyond the mind. When I came out of jail in 2010, I was so shit scared you have no idea, because my family were like talking to robots and personalities. They weren't the same anymore. I was terrified. I didn't know how to express. At a birthday party, they're all sitting on the phone, except for my mum. I said to my mum, "Mum, what are they doing? What's on the news?" I'm thinking there's an emergency on the news, something big, because they're all watching the phone at the same time. In a restaurant on my birthday. My mum turns around and says, "Oh, they're like this all the time. When they come to my place for 40 minutes for coffee, I talk to them for 10 minutes and they sit on the phone for 30 minutes and I can't even talk to them. I can't even have an intensive conversation with any of them." While me and my mum's talking, not one of them is lifting an eyelid or flinching a muscle. And I realise my whole family's polarised on the screen and have no feelings at all and don't even respond to nothing. So deep into themselves on the screen, they feel nothing. They don't even flinch. They don't even care about what me and mum are talking about. They didn't even care or had any feelings whatsoever. And you see it every day with people, and when you talk to people, they're so deep in themselves, the same way. They can't feel, man. And they don't care. They just pretend to do. But they're not human. They're post-human. They're not human. They're post-human and live in denial worldwide. Declared in 2003. And when I was declared when I was in prison, I thought, this has got to be joking. A species in denial. And when I come out of jail, my God, I shit myself. My aura was perfect and they had none. My friends were debating and dividing everywhere with their self-centered ego. No one trusts anyone anymore. No one had faith in anyone anymore. And the relationships were falling apart. There was no genuine relationships. And it scared the living shit out of me. It was the worst moment of my life when I walked out of prison, when I felt the atmosphere everywhere collapse. I went to all my favorite places and the atmosphere was gone. I came out of prison after 10 years in a time where time sincerely life serves, and come back in my primal state with my full abilities in my natural primal motor skills, with confidence, with power, with real love when I come out of jail, back in my primal state, back in my innocence, the same as a child. And when I came out, I got so scared. I felt so innocent, I didn't know what to say. I couldn't have any intellectual conversation with anyone, and there was no love, man. There was no loyalty, honor, respect, morals, inspiration, and encouragement in any one of my families anymore. And I was so connected with them. You know, I set the standards before I went to jail. They all had more faith in me than anybody, and now they were turning on me and didn't care. There was no feelings, man. There was no love at all. And everything was collapsing with love, man, and loyalty and honor and respect. It was all gone. And I knew it, man. I could feel it. And it scared me, man. And I went on like this for just over a week, right? And I was with this girl, and I went down the Gold Coast, and everything was gone, man. The most favourite place, the most positive atmosphere on earth. All those locations, right, recorded by National Opera and the top bowlers in the whole world. The most positive atmosphere on earth. All those locations were collapsed. They were collapsed, man. The atmosphere was collapsed, and I could feel it. And people walking around like actors and zombies and just personalities talking shit all day. No aura at all. I sat down for the first time in my life on a normal bus seat, right, in a walking street on the Gold Coast, in the middle of surface. And this has never happened before in my life. I sat down on the bench and I broke into tears. I broke dramatically into tears. I just cried. Wendy said, "What's wrong, Kim?" I said, "I want to go back home." She said, "You want to go back to prison?" I said, "No, I want to go back home. I don't know this world, man. I don't know this family and these people. Like, honestly, I don't know these people. They're not the same. They think they are, but they're not. They think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm not. They can't think the same. They don't act the same. They don't behave the same. And there's no relationships with them. There's no relationships, man. There's no loyalty, honor, respect, morals, inspiration, government. They just argue, debate, and divide, and being judgmental, and all think they're like gods. Judgmental and competitive, and he thinks, she says, and I'm living my own truth, and all this BS, so artificial. I've never seen nothing in my life, and it scares me, man. It terrifies me, man. It terrifies me to see how my family is, and my family and friends, and they don't know what love is. They don't know what it's like to be human anymore. They haven't got a clue, man. And man, it scares me, right? And then I'm just trying to kick along and avoid it, right? I'm just trying to kick along and avoid it, right? And I couldn't cope, man, for the first time in my life. You know, when I was 12 years old, I left school, right, because I was picked on, and I took drugs, right, and became a junkie, okay? Went for a lot of adverse effects. Never took drugs after 21 for my whole life. Now, I started taking meth, just orally, because I couldn't cope. For the first time in my life, right, in late 2011, I started taking a little bit of meth because I couldn't fucking cope. For the first time in my life, I couldn't cope with the rest of the world, man. Right? I couldn't communicate with this world. Then I died, clinically dead for 23 minutes in 2012, and put for a massive transformation. A massive transformation in my DNA, and DNA has been declared the book of life, and it's shown between 2012 and 2016 that I had a massive genetic process in DNA, a massive transformation. And I went for a massive transformation because I died. And when I died, I woke up and I went through a process. And after this research done, I went through a porthole, a light bulb. An orb of light came to me with the most powerful confirmation, the most powerful miracles was created that day. And I went to another dimension, came back, where everything was perfect. No pain, stress, or fear in a time where James life preserves. With the atmosphere so perfect, I didn't want to come back, right? Like when people died, in broad daylight, in deja vu, I go into this dimension. I see things from my past. When I met the oldest civilization in the world, in the outback of Australia, declared by Jeff McGivers, the largest human being born on earth, the most loving, compassionate creature on earth, with the most powerful aura, the most spiritual people on earth, that has the power and the aura in such a way when you go near them, it leaves you gobsmacked and speechless, and you feel stupid and dumb because the love pours all over you. And they have that ability to create 10 times more fruit with 10 times more nutrient value because they bear the right fruit, and I went through that. And that's why I adapted into this with the same kind of atmosphere, because I was introduced to this when I was 12 years old, when I was rejected and sat in the bush for 6 months. And it's one of the most powerful confirmations on earth, where I carried my instinctive behavior with the aura and changed the circumstances throughout my life myself with the most powerful confirmation, right? So I was put through this path with an elderly at 12 years old that came to me through an orb of light, a Minmin light, a watcher that watch over you. And I went into this without realizing it, and still have amnesia, and still suffered the human condition myself with stress, fear and anxiety until 2012 when I died. And I was put through that because God said to me, son, you felt the truth, and you felt it when you came out of jail, the human conditioning in post-human stage. The human conditioning in post-human stage, son. You felt the human conditioning. And you know the human conditioning spreads like a virus with a placebo effect and affects animals all over the earth and birds falling out of the sky and fish going around in circles of the ocean and Abide syndromes worldwide with people losing their magnetic pulse and losing their sixth sense, going to 6 mass extinction, stripping the sixth sense for the 6th time. Son, it was reported with the human conditioning and post-human stage on your birthday, 27 September 1999, the day after the first G20 and the 26th. And son, you're the last human being born on earth that found a DNA on the 27th September 1960. Metal Rat, the King of all kings. Holy Spirit, Divine Light and Scales, 27 and September. These declarations are made on those birthdays for a reason. Divine power to command nature. Holy Spirit, Divine Light, okay, and Scales for justice. The post-human conditioning. Everybody's in their mind in a massive global delusional state and don't have any real love and don't have intuitive codependent power. They have no EMP pulses. They live in their mind in mentality, trapped with amnesia and do not know what they do. Can't feel the truth, can't handle the truth, can't face the truth because they follow their mind and the voice of mind is ultimately designed for extinction, trapped into a human conditioning, trapped with voice of mind, ultimately designed for human extinction. They will tell them whatever they believe in their own comfort zone, designed and developed by the Rockefellers into a conscious singulated by WF, trapped in the mind, in mentality, in their personality, and do not know what they do. They cannot feel the truth. When I come out of jail in 2010, I went through the most terrifying moment of my life. When I was in a time where time stands still, I preserves in prison for 10 years, and then I come out in an environment that's going faster into nowhere, but it's on extinction. You can feel the truth, and people avoid it the most. The atmosphere is collapsing worldwide. The people's auras collapse between 95 and 99%. They can only see 1 to 5% in their aura, in their body cells, and repair at night time. I repair 24 hours a day. My aura is 100 times more powerful. I can master my use and 100% of my brain. You can only 7 to 9. In majority, 1% can use up to 15% with brain deformity. I use 100%. 100% of my aura, 100% of my brain. The sixth sense is spirituality. The picture that tells us that was going to lie to you, the light bulb here, and you don't have it. You don't depend on it, and you got no faith in it. So therefore, you're artificial, and you're reverse psychology, because your body says it corrupts illusion in the daytime and can't repair, because they don't know how to, because they're in corruption illusion during the daytime. Mind works by the vineyard willingly to love one another and betterness in the real flesh, right, with compassion and good deeds. They love one another and betterness, burdens, and repair 24 hours a day, because they live by those tools, and you do that in prison. You live by the natural environment with natural selection in prison that makes your body cells do that. Proven with DNA studies done. So we're not mentally institutionalized in prison. We're mentally institutionalized in school and the world outside, stuck in the cave in the mind, with artificial intelligence and artificial mutation, with atheism. Atheism is antichrist, anti-clockwise, in your body, in your own DNA, and you follow those tools the most in your own body. Atheism, anti-clockwise, antichrist, no matter how you look at it. You cannot think outside the mind the way I can and repair your genes without divine power to command nature at all. Because God didn't give you that gift. And you weren't selected like this because you can't use your natural selection at all. You don't even know how to. You don't have faith in your own biological genes to use your own natural selection life, your natural order, with your natural gameticus, with genetic memory and a genetic process, with the ancestral tools coding your own DNA, the book of life, right? And 27 biofields. You have 32 senses. Those 27 fields that you cannot use with dimensional thinking is the light, power, and energy in your body with your intuitive, codependent power, the relationship. And when you don't have it, you don't have it. End of story. You're controlling the mind and inverted into yourself, in mentality, in a personality. We give consent to the outside influence, right, of the celestial primordial being to control our vessel from the outside in. We own a DNA, we own a human experience, we own an avatar. Your mind's only made by beautiful working things out with. It's only based on IQ memory. It's a memory box. The voice of mind's only personality. When you understand that, and you break free from amnesia and the reincarnation trap, you control your business from the outside in and master your mind, use 100% of your brain and all your aura and all your divine power. When you go back into childhood, when your innocence, through natural selection and a natural process. And we teach that every day. We're the most powerful confirmation on earth. We're testimonies from our followers. Go watch and listen to what they say. With the book Freedom by Jeremy McGivens, the Holy Grail of Life, and When I Breathe and Break Them, the Holy Breath of Life. We're the most powerful confirmation on earth. In DNA stage done. The most powerful love, confirmation, clarification, and divine intervention you'll ever have. Listen to what I'm saying to you. 98.7% of the human population is artificial and reverse psychological engineering, and the aura is anti-clockwise. Only 1.3% is clockwise. Only 1.3% is clockwise. Going back in the primordial state, back in the innocence, back in the celestial primordial being, and control the business from the outside in. And they are not people on social media platform who are just actors and Hollywood spinners and American dreamers and only care about themselves, me, myself, and I, and their own opinions. Believe me or no, do not fail, because they're all controlled by Baal. With voltage by a billion of DNA, and DNA doesn't lie, and proves that they all depend on it, with propaganda, with a placebo effect into their own narratives, and they don't have multiple universal language with multiple perceptions to see the truth and feel the truth with the light bulb here, the picture that tells 1,000 words you can see in the movie Limits, with the vortex of information, with sevenfold wisdom that can lie to you, because everything else in the world does. Are you aware of that? It prevents you in your mind. Your mind's very limited. You own your own worst enemy. It plays 60 games in you. You are your own prison, your own warden. You don't even know that. Trust me, I know. And break free from amnesia and the reincarnation trap is one hell of a process, but I can guarantee you, you're given the God-given power with love pouring all over you in such a way that no weapon with against can prosper. And I promise you that. But you have to understand something. People have no aura. They have no sixth sense. And if they don't restore that, they're screwed. And the mind doesn't know how to. The mind's the problem. It's the oppressor that eliminates you so much. That limits you so much. Think outside the mind with the natural process. With the book Freedom by Jim McGivens and When I Breathe and Program every day. And don't do any selections for 40 days. Get off screens and radio waves and don't eat for 40 days. Take zinc, iron, magnesium, vitamin C, B12, drink lots of liquid. Fasten, stop unnatural selection. Isolate yourself, mind your own business. Keep to yourself, don't get involved in competitive behavior. Get into the sixth sense. When I breathe in the Holy Breath of Life and do it hardcore and activate your Neuralink and activate the sacred secretion to conduct with through meditation, through the sixth sense, the third eye. And the picture will come to you that tells you 1,000 words and it'll happen. Right? Go through this unnatural selection into the natural selection. They'll happen automatically. You go through the rebirth crossover through a natural selection. And then you go for a natural process with a genetic process, right, for a transformation. The great transformation, the world transformation movement. Jeremy McGivens is the leader in this, with the top scholars in the world with the Holy Grail of Life, and they're on the money in the biggest merge ever in human history. We can do what Christ can and more in the most positive fields, and trust me, I know what you do not know. The atmosphere is collapsing and people are artificial worldwide. Okay, and they do not know what they do in their mind. And they do not know what they're missing out on either. But this is the most powerful confirmation. 40 days of fasting, or around that time, we're not breathing, and listen to the book Freedom, and I'll take you through this, and I'll take you right out of your vessel, and take you through the light in the tunnel, like Plato describes in 15 books, the greatest philosopher of all time, and they studied him and the Humans for 45 years and found the cure. How to take the red pill so you don't go back. How to go through every rabbit hole and to get out the cave. And then you'll learn things you never learned before in your life. But you relate to it, and it'll make sense to you, and you'll see things you never saw. You'll understand things you never understood, but it's all going to make sense to you as you go through this, through the light in the tunnel. And you cross over to a new era with sevenfold wisdom knowledge to create heaven and earth. And believe me, it's the greatest time to be alive. And you don't know that, then you don't know what you're missing out on.